Hey guys, it's Ohmwrecker, and I am looking at Natural Selection 2 today. This is a game by Unknown Worlds Entertainment. It just came out. By the time you see this video, you can go pick up a copy. It's going to run you $24.99 for a single copy. Otherwise, you can invest in a 4-pack if you want to get some friends in on the game for $74.99. And this is a hybrid of a FPS and an RTS. The FPS is going to be the main side of the game that most players are going to be into. And there's also a strategic layer, though, where one player on each team, there's 2 teams total, one player on each team plays as a commander. And the commander is in charge of issuing orders to the players, which they can follow or not follow. It depends on how they're feeling. And the commander can also build structures. He can research a number of different technologies or alien upgrades, and essentially he's the one who's going to kind of dictate what players have access to as they play through the game. So a commander can make or break the situation when it comes to which team wins and which one's able to repel the enemy. So functionality wise, this is definitely a PC game. It's a PC exclusive. It's a custom engine made by Unknown Worlds Entertainment. It's not running Unreal or Crytek or Source or anything like that. This is all made by the developers entirely themselves. And it's got a number of different options for graphics. You can also bind all of your keys to whatever you want. Additionally, there's a number of different sliders to customize, for example, your field of vision. Although, for whatever reason, the field of vision slider doesn't tell you exactly what you're sliding to. It doesn't give you a numerical value, but it's nice that the option is there. So, getting into the game a little bit more, the engine itself looks pretty good, I would say. There are some things that are a little bit wonky. There's animations occasionally that are definitely out of place, such as when a Marine gets knocked down by an Onos, which is one of the largest alien types that you can end up going against. And there are some things missing, like you'll see a lack of bullet impacts or damage to walls. Things that we've been seeing in FPS games for ages aren't there for whatever reason, but at the same time, the game engine does look pretty damn good for a FPS engine that was custom made. And they do have a growth mechanics that's pretty cool. I mean, you don't see that too often in other games. It's almost like a creep expansion in StarCraft, when queens or even buildings can extend creep on the maps in StarCraft 2. Well, in this game there is the growth that expands throughout the maps, and it's kind of a new thing to FPS for the most part. So where there are things lacking, there are things that are definitely there for this game that isn't quite there for other shooters. So gameplay wise, it is a pretty polished experience overall, I would say, as a FPS. The RTS mechanic is also pretty well done. I mean, it resembles pretty much any other RTS out there, and I'll include some footage of that, but for right now we're looking at the Marines. Now, the Marines, they are actually in charge of building all the structures that the commander asks players to build, and if players don't do it, then they're not getting built, at least until there's a robotics facility. And the commander at that point can then start using the, or at least one of the different types of robots to build structures and also do repairs. Up until that point, though, it's on the players, so the commander is as reliant on players as he is, as the players are on him. So, the Marines themselves, the way that they increase their power is the commander researches a number of different technologies. It gives them access to weapons. The commander can also research armor and weapon upgrades that apply a blanket increase in either armor or weapon damage, and that applies to all weapons. So the little icons you see on the right side of the screen for the Marines, I don't even know how to explain what they look like, almost like satchel charges and stuff. That's actually showing you how many pips of upgrades each of them have. So in this case, what you're seeing in the footage here is there's 2 armor upgrades and 3 weapon upgrades researched by the commander. So that applies to all weapons. So at level 3 of weapons, you're doing 60% more damage, and that applies to all weapons. So it can have a pretty big impact. Aside from that, commanders can also reinforce their allies in a number of ways. They can drop med packs down for them. They can drop weapons. They can drop exosuits, stuff like that. And ultimately, Marines, beyond being badass infantry types where they've got flamethrowers and grenade launchers, they can also get jetpacks, and there's also exosuits that they can wear that are pretty damn powerful. They initially come with a minigun on one arm and then a fist on the other that you can use to punch with. But at the top tier level exosuit, you can actually have 2 miniguns on that thing and lay out a ton of damage. Aliens on the other side, or on the other hand rather, they are more about mini upgrades that commanders can research, and with those mini upgrades they can have enhancements or they can evolve into creatures with these enhancements, and some of them are silent movements where you can't be heard as you're moving about. Another is a carapace armor, which reduces incoming damage, and another is a speed upgrade where your alien type moves much faster. And these are upgrades that players can pick and choose, but they're reliant on how many bases the aliens control. So it is an interesting mechanic, and just like the aliens, the Marines also do have some reliance on how many bases they own as well. So some structures simply cannot be built without having control of 2 different spawn points, I guess you could say. But aside from that, again, the FPS experience is pretty standard. If you die, you respawn. Although one interesting thing is aliens can take out your spawn portals and stop players from coming back until a commander can rebuild one. And if he can't, well, the team's pretty much screwed. And on the other side, with the Marines going on the offensive, aliens are reliant on eggs. And beyond taking out the hives that the aliens control, the Marines can take out these eggs that are always around the hives. And if they do that, then the aliens can't respawn. Although there are a number of them, and they're constantly popping up. It's almost like larvae in StarCraft 2. So the difference is that in this game they're much more squishy, and in StarCraft 2 it usually takes a bit of effort to kill larvae. In this game it doesn't take much effort to kill eggs. And also what's interesting is that the exosuits can actually crush the larvae just by walking over them. So that's one tactic if you're entering an enemy hive area and you want to stop them from spawning. Just keep walking over eggs as you're attacking the hive, and it will severely cripple the aliens where they can't spawn at that location. They'll have to spawn at another base, or if there's not another base, then they're totally screwed, and they simply just can't spawn. They have to wait, or at least watch as the game ends. So the balance in the game is, I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell right now how balanced things are. The aliens, I've seen some really good aliens that are great at the melee combat, but for the most part it seems much harder to land hits with the aliens as I would have expected it to be. There's no lock-on mechanic, it's all on players, and typically when you're playing as the aliens and you're going against good Marines, they're going to be bunny hopping like crazy. So you've got to be ready for that and have your aim ready as well, to aim not just at ground level but also at their bodies and their heads, and while they're jumping you might want to be jumping. So it's, I don't know, it's kind of like a old school FPS type experience when it comes to that with the melee side of things. Now the gunplay when you're playing the Marines, that's all standard. I mean, the only thing that feels a little bit weird is the grenade launcher. When you lob the grenades, you can tell that the engine doesn't always know exactly like what to do with ricochets. So it's not, I mean, you'll usually get one bounce off of it, then it lands on the ground and it's done. But the grenades don't always travel where you expect them to, which is a little bit strange. Aside from that, the machine guns, the flamethrowers, everything else feels right. I mean, it feels like a proper FPS experience. The aliens, they do have some projectiles, but for the most part, most of the aliens are focused on melee combat. The ones that do have ranged are a little bit more of a support type alien. The basic alien, the one that you start off with, well, there's actually 2 that you start off with, but the one that most players are going to be using the most at the start, they do have a spit attack that will tag enemy Marines, and show them on the map for other players. But there's another alien type as well called the Gorge that can lob projectiles, but he's not meant to be as much of a damage dealer. He's more of a support He's got a heal ability. He can also be an offensive artillery if he gets bio bombs, but it is definitely a different experience given that the primary damage dealers, and there's 3 of them, they are melee based. So one of them specifically I do want to talk about, it's called the Fade, and this is where the kind of the balance issue comes in. The Fade has the ability to leap in and out of combat at will. He can do this little teleport thing and just bounce in and out of combat, take a tiny bit of damage, get out. And I've seen some players with the Fade go on an absolute rampage with that thing. I mean, they'll hop in, they'll get 1 or 2 swipes off, which is usually good enough to kill a Marine even when they're upgraded, and then back out. And I mean, seriously, I've seen some Fades with like 50 kills to like 5 deaths. I mean, it can be that bad. I really don't know what the solution is. I've seen some commanders try to lay down sentry guns and stuff like that, or try to equip players, you know, with the best equipment possible, but it's just you simply cannot do enough damage to those things most of the time when they're in the hands of a good player. Onos, that's what they're called. On the other hand, they are like the big ass monster creatures in this game. They look like, you know, combination of like a elephant and a rhino and even like a little bit of a squid with the tentacles on its head. But those things, at least they're you know, they'll be in combat for a while and you can lay into them. Granted, they have a ton of hit points and it's hard to take them down, but at least you can get fire off on them. I've seen entire squads of people go for some Fades before controlled by good players, and even 5-6 guys at a time trying to lay down fire can't take out a damn Fade. So a lot of times it comes down to luck with grenade shots, stuff like that, in order to take out a Fade. And I'm not quite sure about the balance with that. You know, I don't know if I agree with what the developers did there, but aside from that, you know, it's overall a pretty decent experience. I wouldn't call this a perfect game by any means, but it is pretty fun, especially when you've got teams that are coordinated. That's one of the biggest keys to this game, is playing with people that have gotten past the learning curve and know what they're doing, and they know how to push and they know how to counter pushes from the enemy. They know how to help the commander get the resources he needs so your team can be successful, stuff like that. If you've got a bunch of guys that are going off on their own and just screwing around, it's not nearly as fun of an experience, which is probably what will make the 4-pack a lot more appealing for players, you know, given that hopping in with friends is going to give you a much better chance at coordinating with allies. So, talking about the commander experience, again, it's very much like a RTS that you can play. I mean, there's tons of them out there, and it looks pretty good. I mean, the icons, everything, it definitely feels like proper RTS. One thing to note about that, though, is I spent a lot of time trying to actually get in a commander chair. I used to be able to do it no problem when the game was pre-alpha and alpha, but here, as we're right next to retail, there are a lot of players that have been playing this game religiously, and there's some really big egos. I wasn't able to get into any chairs in a normal-sized player map, but I ended up joining one that had, I think it was like 3 or 4 players when I joined, and initially I tried to ask a commander on one of the sides if he'd let me hop in. He wouldn't, and then finally at the next map load I was able to get the seat. Well, I ran into yet another one of these you know, players with a big ego, and honestly, like, this guy was as bad as like anybody I've seen in even like MOBA games. I mean, MOBA games are pretty notorious for having bad communities and just, you know, players who will rage in a drop of a hat. This guy was the definition of an asshole, and I literally, like, I was trying to do everything I could to support the team, even though there were only, you know, a couple other players in the map. And I was doing research, you know, and upgrades and stuff like that, and an alien ended up attacking our base. I hopped out to defend it, and this guy not only hopped into the commander seat, but he also killed me when he took it over, and you know, then went on to rage at me for the next 5-10 minutes of the map. And even when the game was ending, the aliens were invading, he just allowed them to destroy the base. He didn't even hop out or do anything for the team. He literally just spent the rest of the game bitching at me, saying that I was floating resources. So that is one problem with this game going into retail, and you know, I hate the fact that I have to bring it up, but I've run into a number of these players who have really bad attitudes, and that never goes well when a game's trying to get going in a retail space right as it launches. You know, it's always better when developers go and try to build up community leaders that are going to be there to you know, help bring players up to speed, especially when there's a learning curve and you need to learn the maps, and if you're going to hop in the commander seat, you need to learn that, and you know, there's a lot to it when it comes to this game compared to normal FPS titles. And you know, to run into players like that, it can be pretty toxic, where it can drive players away or make them regret their purchase, or you know, whatever else. And it's kind of disappointing to see, especially, you know, considering that this game is just launching. But if you can link up with friends, or if you luck out and don't run into those players, you happen to find players that are helpful, you're gonna have a much better time, and you'll enjoy the game much more. So overall, I'd say that this is a pretty good game. If I had to assign a numerical score to it right now, the way I'm feeling after being a supporter of it from the very beginning, I purchased it literally when it was pre-alpha and the engine was absolute garbage compared to what it is today. I'd honestly stick to probably about an 8 out of 10. I wouldn't you know, give it anything close to a 9 right this second, just because I feel there's a lot to do in terms of balance, and you know, it just there's just something missing about the formula that they're going for here. It almost feels like in some ways Natural Selection 1 had a little bit of better balance, or at least hit detection with melee and stuff. I feel like the aliens can be a little bit frustrating to play sometimes. It feels like you should be getting hits at times and it's not connecting. Other times you'll land multiple hits in a row, and it's hard to tell if it's netcode that's interfering or what, or if there's server performance issues where it's predicting your location to be in a different area. I'm not quite sure. It's harder to detect on the Marine side, but aside from that, as an FPS, you know, it feels pretty good. I think they've locked down good performance with the engine, and the graphics look really good aside from the decals issue that I'd mentioned. It's hard to come up with any other complaints. The audio is pretty good. It could be a little bit better. Some of the guns, especially on the Marines, well, I guess entirely on the Marine side, they could sound a little bit, I don't even know how to explain it. They sound a little bit tinny, or they sound lightweight. And I'd like to hear a little bit, you know, a heavier punch when you're firing the gun. But, you know, aside from that, everything else is pretty good. I mean, the aliens, they all sound good. There's decent music. Nothing too memorable. I don't think I'm going to be putting it on a iPod or anything like that anytime soon. But, you know, it fits the setting. And overall, I mean, the user interface looks good. The RTS experience, I mean, that's a whole other side of the game. And that visually looks proper. And it's hard to, you know, come up with many other complaints. So, you know, again, I'd probably give it close to like an 8 out of 10, and there's definitely room for improvement, but it's a good game. So if this looks like something that you guys would enjoy, by all means, check it out. It's $24.99 again on Steam, and you can get a 4-pack, once again, for $74.99 if you want to go in with your friends. And it's out now. So that's about it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Please be sure to like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends about my channel. I always appreciate when you guys do that. And stay tuned for more videos. I'll see you guys next time.